Martial World Teyvat Chapter 61d, Fantasy Fiction by Azazyel. Both Keqing and Ayato looked at me with disbelief, with Keqing sighing and saying, "I am sorry, Lord Kamisato, he is still hopeless when it comes to noble etiquette and practices. He prefers to just make technology and wonders that leave people in gaping in wonder to cover up for his lack of social graces." I took a deep breath and I said more firmly as I reached over and took Keqing's hand into my own, "Keqing, I love you. I love you completely and honestly. I don't need a second wife in this life." Keqing smiled softly as she threaded her hand into mine and she said softly, "And I appreciate that, Jake. I love you too, but love is the most potent binding of them all in this world." With that, Keqing, with her still holding my hand, looked back to Ayato and said calmly, "I will not harm nor cause grief to your sister should she be wedded to my own husband." I paused at that and then Keqing continued, "Ever since Ningguang and Cloud Retainer approached me about this, I have considered this possibility long and hard before I came to the conclusion that we are both very busy people, Jake. Not to mention that we need to expand our noble household." "What noble household?" I almost snapped in confusion as I looked at Keqing with something getting close to irritation. And Keqing gave me a long look before she took a deep breath and explained gently, "Jake, I rather not say this in front of guests, but as you gain the strength to properly protect your own factories, do you want to continue to send more than 80% of everything you make to the Liu at Keqing? Wouldn't you want to be more independent?" I gave Keqing a literally dull look before I said flatly, "Keqing, the reason I pay tribute to Ningguang and Morix is that I literally need an army of high-level cultivators and martial artists to protect said factories due to them being miniature holy lands with all the spirit stones they pull up and use in their production." I shook my head and said with a wry smile, "Let's say I married Ganyu and Shinhe, for example. Those two are both strong and very talented, but they still cannot protect a factory on their own, and just making connections with other sects and noble families like the Kamisatos won't stop some crazy demonic cultivator from trying to steal everything from a factory." Ayato coughed and my lips twitched as he said with amazement, "I see. He truly is ignorant of noble affairs. No, Jake, in your own mind she means that marrying another noble scion would bring that family into your affairs, and in giving them shares of the business the duty of shared bloodline will bind them, and profits to keep the shared business together." I brushed a hand across my face as I actually understood what they meant, especially in this world. For example, let's say there was a huge mining operation one noble family had, they couldn't hold said mine due to other hostile families, monsters, or otherwise. So they would set up an heir with another family's child in marriage so that they could legitimately share the duty of keeping the mine going and providing a profit, with the second family getting a smaller share of the mine in return for helping keep it open. I understood what they were getting at. But I loved Keqing and this was real life. I highly doubted adding Kamisato Ayaka, a girl who was likely very different from what I knew of the game, to be just married to myself directly would be good for our relationship. But it seems that Keqing understood my dilemma as she squeezed my hand and said with a soft smile, "Jake, so long as you love and respect me, I won't give you any grief for this. This is honestly normal, and if it wasn't for how you married me, Ningguang would have set you up with a woman to tie you to the Liu at Keqing anyway. And as I imagine Ningguang, and how she handled things, how she purged the Li family well in advance for coming after me at my factory. How she had a slightly flirty demeanor and she would do damn near anything to protect Liu and its prosperity." I knew Keqing was very right about Ningguang though. Ningguang would have taken one of her personal project orphans she raised to work in the Liu at Keqing, and she would have sent her as a blushing bride into my bed chambers with no hesitation to tie me to the Liu at Keqing. If I hadn't instantly locked onto Keqing when we were working together in either case. This is rather sudden, to be honest," I said with an exhale before I decided to just man up. If Keqing was going to support this, and this was very much the norm in both of the countries we belonged to. "But I am willing to give this a try, Ayato. How about I bring your sister Ayaka with me to Liu, and we see how things go. If we naturally fit together, the marriage will go on without any issue. However, if we don't out, we can just say she was with us to make sure the Kamisato clan's investment was made in good faith, which saves her honor." I spoke It was a perfect middle ground in my mind, with Ayato raising an eyebrow in interest before he shrugged with a small smile crossing his face. I see. So an engagement of sorts to see if things work instead of the full marriage. Very well, I will accept that as the lord of the Kamisato clan. Ayato then stood up elegantly from his seat and said, Well, my sister is just outside your compound, and while your Minders are busy with some trouble with a nearby neighboring noble family next to your food factory, you will need to get a move on from Inazuma. Not giving us any time to do anything else, are you? I asked with some extra meaning in my words, with Ayato giving a light hum and saying easily, Correct, I'd rather not see whatever going-away gift you have in mind for my homeland. Better to end this vacation with you leaving hand in hand with your wife, and wife-to-be. Not leaving something unpleasant behind. Ayato then walked ahead of us after we left our house. With him walked to the front door, and sitting at the front of our gate was a decent-sized purple carriage with the Kamisato clan's iconography with several electro symbols engraved and painted onto it. And then I blinked as I recognized Kuki Shinobu of all people open up the door to the carriage while wearing her signature rather revealing outfit. Kuki then stepped out of the carriage with her bowing her head towards Ayato and then myself before she stood up straight and said, My lords, Lady Ayaka is ready. Ayato gave me a small smile and said, This young lady is Kuki Shinobu. She is a member of the Shimatsuban, the Inazuma Assassination and Secret Police Force, and more importantly, she is my sister's dear friend from childhood after my family adopted her. Although I knew a good bit about Shinobu's canon past and being a daughter of a line of priestesses/mikos in the Narukami Shrine, I had no idea what the Narukami Shrine was like in this world where monsters and the abyssal fiends and demons roamed the world. For all I knew, instead of having a lot of drama with her mother about not wanting to be a miko/priestess and initially running off to Liyue to learn law like in canon, she could easily just be an orphan or something. Either way, I nodded and said, Hello Miss Shinobu, my name is Jake Barris, and this is my wife Keqing. Both Keqing and Shinobu shared a look before Keqing smiled and said easily, Having another wielder of an electro vision around in Liyue can be interesting. It's good to meet you. Then came the moment of truth. With Kuki opening the door, it was Ayaka's turn to shine as she elegantly came out of the open carriage door with her taking in my form and giving me a knowing awkward smile even as she then put on a calm expression. Ayaka had a similar shorter and modest build like Keqing and longer hair. But they differed in how Ayaka's skin was a pale delicate tone, and her hair being longer and a silver blue with her eyes being a deep blue similar to my own. Where Keqing instead had very noticeable purple hair and violet eyes. Hello Jake Barris, my name is Ayaka, Kamisato Ayaka. She said bowing her head to me, and for a moment I wanted to ask if she really wanted this. But I could see the pride and purpose in Ayaka's eyes as she stared me straight in the eye as though to say, I want this is my choice. And besides my own feeling of how awkward having basically my own arranged marriage thrown into my lap. This was a powerful step towards me gaining my own independence from the other forces that surrounded me constantly. To say nothing how Ayaka should we do the deed, would give me a powerful boost to my cultivation and body refinement, just like how my honeymoon with Keqing boosted me greatly. Jake, you and Keqing are welcome to use the carriage if you need to, in order to make your escape. Ayato said calmly, breaking the staring contest between me and Ayaka. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath before I said, No, it's alright, we don't need to go anywhere. Ayaka, are you ready to go now? Ayaka's deep blue eyes shut as she likewise took a breath, knowing that her life was going to irrevocably change at this moment. And she said firmly, Yes, I am ready for this. And she clearly meant more than just leaving Liyue, so with a nice open road in front of me. I first held on to the shrouding artifact in hand, while I then took my pelican out of my spatial ring that I had modified so it could be built while still in stasis.